On August 13, 1521, the greatest city in the Western world was reduced to rubble and ash. 300,000 people gone. For 5 centuries, we called it a conquest. What your history teachers didn't tell you is that it was something far more complicated than that. This is the story of Tenochtitlan's fall. It's about empire, betrayal, and a civilization that never saw it coming. It's about one emperor who chose silence over survival. And it's about the truth that colonial history spent 500 years trying to bury. Let me show you what really happened. 1519. The Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan sits on a lake in central Mexico, a shimmering island city of pyramids, canals, and floating gardens. Population, over 200,000, larger than London, larger than Rome. The average citizen woke to the sound of market bells and temple drums. Life was structured, spiritual, and brutal. Emperor Moctezuma II ruled from the sacred precinct of Tlatelolco. He commanded tribute from 500 cities. He was considered a god king. But in April 1519, a figure arrived on the eastern shore. Hernán Cortés, a Spanish commander with 500 soldiers, 16 horses, and ambitions that dwarfed his army. Moctezuma hesitated. Ancient prophecy whispered of a returning feathered god. Intelligence reports described strange floating towers on the sea. His advisors warned him, but Moctezuma invited Cortés in. Nobody knew history was about to pivot. On that single, fatal act of hospitality, June 30th, 1520, the city erupted. After months of tension, the Spanish massacred Aztec nobles at a sacred festival. The people of Tenochtitlan rose in fury. Cortés fled in the night, La Noche Triste, the night of tears, losing nearly half his men crossing the causeways. But he didn't retreat. He rebuilt, he recruited, and here is the truth most textbooks skip. Cortés didn't defeat the Aztecs alone. He allied with 100,000 Tlaxcalan warriors, enemies of the Aztec Empire, who had suffered under decades of tribute and ritual sacrifice. By May 1521, a combined force surrounded Tenochtitlan. The siege lasted 75 days. The Spanish cut the freshwater aqueducts. Smallpox, introduced unknowingly months earlier, was already killing thousands. By August, the streets were filled not with warriors, but with the dying. On August 13, 1521, Emperor Cuauhtémoc was captured attempting to flee by canoe. When Cortés asked where Moctezuma's gold was hidden, Cuauhtémoc gestured to his own bleeding feet, already being burned for information, and said, "Am I on a bed of roses?" The city was leveled, stone by stone, temple by temple. Mexico City was built directly on top. In the years that followed, the human cost was staggering. Central Mexico's indigenous population collapsed from roughly 25 million in 1519 to under 2 million by 1600, driven by disease, forced labor, and war. The Spanish called it God's will. The numbers called it catastrophe. Cuauhtémoc was executed in 1525, hanged by Cortés during an expedition to Honduras on suspicion of conspiracy. The last emperor of the Aztecs died far from home, in jungle silence. Colonial chroniclers wrote the official version, barbaric savages, saved by civilization. But indigenous codices, many burned, a few surviving, told a different story. One of a sophisticated world, shattered not by moral superiority, but by steel, disease, and division. History is written by the architects. The rubble tells the truth. Here's what history still doesn't fully reckon with. The Aztec Empire didn't fall because Spain was stronger. It fell because other indigenous nations helped bring it down and received almost nothing in return. The Tlaxcalans were promised freedom. They were recolonized within a generation, declassified colonial records, and post-conquest codices, many compiled by Franciscan Friar Bernardino de Sahagun in the Florentine Codex, preserve Aztec voices describing the siege in devastating detail. Those accounts were suppressed by the Spanish crown for nearly 200 years. The same pattern repeats today. of dominant powers rewriting the stories of those they displaced, until the displaced find their own voice again. The people of Tenochtitlan built something extraordinary. We owe them more than a footnote. History is full of moments like this, where everything was more complicated than the textbook version. Next week, I'm covering the Inca Empire and the eerily similar playbook Pizarro used just 10 years later. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Drop a comment. What civilization do you want me to cover next? Thank you for watching and remembering. I'll see you in the next one.